Welcome back to Baking with Love. I'm Carolyn Stella, aka Stella, coming to you from the PEG TV Kitchen Studio. Did you know August is National Peach Month? Well, it is, so today I'd like to share with you my recipe for peaches and cream tart. Peaches are the third most commonly grown fruit in the U.S. after apples and oranges. Can you guess which state grows the most peaches? If you guessed Georgia, you're not alone. That's usually everyone's first guess, but you wouldn't be correct. California is miles ahead. Let's take a look at the graph. They've grown, last year alone, 475,000 tons of peaches. So they're number one. South Carolina is second, beating Georgia, which is commonly known as the peach state. Then Pennsylvania, Colorado, Michigan, New Jersey, and Washington State. We're going to be using yellow New Jersey peaches for our recipe today because they were on sale at my local Vermont grocery. So I'll share some more fun peach facts along the way. Let's get baking. Before you got here, I preheated our oven to 400 degrees. That's for the crust. We'll lower it for the filling. And you're going to need a tart pan with a removable bottom, something like this. Now the recipe, which you can find on the PEG TV website, is for an 11-inch tart. This is a 9-inch pan, but my 11-inch pans were a little busy, which you'll see along the way. So we're going to use a 9-inch pan, but I also have this cute little mini tart heart pan, also with a removable bottom. So we will make our dough and fill up both of these today, and then we'll get to our 11-inch. If you want to make a 9-inch only, you can reduce the recipe by 1/3. So we're going to start with 1½ sticks of softened butter. That's 3/4 of a cup. And I'm using unsalted because that's what I had. You can use whatever you have. And then a 1/2 cup of sugar. We're going to blend this together on kind of a low speed. And this is an almond shortbread crust. Now, if you remember our December episode of Baking with Love, where we made Linzer's and Empire cookies, we talked a lot about shortbread. Shortbread has a nice buttery flavor and kind of a nice crumbly texture. So you'll cream together the butter and the sugar, and then you'll start to add in, this is, I call it a scant 2 cups. It's like 1 7/8 cups, or 2 cups minus 2 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. And we'll add that in a couple of additions. And again, you want to have a nice kind of pebbly, crumbly texture. I'm just mixing it in on low. And we're also going to add in a little almond extract. So this is going to be an almond shortbread. Almond and peach flavors just go really well together. So we're going to mix in some flour. It's getting that nice crumbly texture. Mix in a little more flour. And then you might have to stop and scrape down your bowl a little bit. Move over so the graph doesn't get in our way. And one more addition. This is really looking good. Okay. And now, 3/4 of a teaspoon of almond extract. And I'm doing that with my Love measuring spoon, so we're adding a little Love into our dough as well. Okay, that looks good. I'm just going to scrape down the bowl real quick. And you can see kind of the sandy texture. Make sure stuff on the bottom is blended in. I'll give a little more of a spin with the mixer. And then we're just going to press it into the bottom of our tart pan, ungreased tart pan. I know a lot of times when we do this show, I say before you got here, I preheated our oven and I used some non-stick cooking spray on our pan, but not today. Just a plain tart pan with a removable bottom is all you're going to need for this recipe. Give a little bit more of a mix, and you can see it coming together. The pebbles get a little bit bigger as the flour and the sugar kind of clump together with the butter. You don't want to make it too gooey because you want your shortbread to be tender, and this will be. I think it's some people's favorite part of the whole tart. They love this crust. there you have it. So that is very nice shortbread crust. And I'll just clean up a little bit and we'll get to pressing it into our tart pan. And I'll tell you a little bit more about peach history. So again, this recipe, which you can find on the website, is for an 11-inch tart. Right now I'm using a 9-inch pan, and we'll also use the heart. So we're going to leave some out. You're just going to press it along the bottom. So we looked at the states that produce the most peaches. Can you guess which country in the world grows the most peaches? It's China. In fact, peaches were supposedly originated in China and have been cultivated since about 1000 BC. So peaches go way back. And then they made their way to Europe and eventually to the Americas. I'm just pinching this into the sides, and then I'll press down the bottom, and then I'll add a few more crumbs to get the sides a little higher up. So they were brought to the Americas, they believe, in 1574 by Franciscan monks to islands off the coast of Georgia. So even though Georgia isn't the #1 peach producing state these days, peaches and Georgia have a long history, hundreds of years. All right, so that looks good. And again, just to make it a little more secure, we're going to give a few crumbs up the sides and press. And now we'll add a little bit of the crumbs to our heart tart, and we will do the same thing, go up the sides and make that kind of joint where the bottom and the sides meet, so we know that it's going to hold in our delicious peaches and cream filling. And that looks good. One little low spot here, and that's the crust. So super easy, only 4 ingredients plus a little love, and you've got your crust for your 9-inch and now your heart. And this is going to bake a little less than it would for the 11-inch. So I think the recipe that you can find online says about 15 to 18 minutes, but the smaller, especially the heart, maybe 10 or 12, and maybe the larger one about 15. Also, before we put it in our oven, we're going to prick the bottom and the sides with the tines of a fork, and these little holes will serve as vents so that it will keep the nice crumbly shortbread texture that we want, and our crust will not get soggy. I have a little bit more of the crumbs. Like I said, this is a recipe for a little bit bigger tart, so I'm going to add to the sides of our 9-inch a little bit. This heart looks good, and it's going to be so cute. It would make a nice gift for somebody that you want to surprise with a little baked love. And again, it's just going to take a little less time to bake. So that's our heart. And just over here, a couple more crumbs on the side of our 9-inch, because you don't want to, I mean, if it wasn't really needed, I would leave it out, but I think it could use a little shoring up on the sides. And with the removable bottom, it should release pretty easily we'll see later when we get to our finished tart. Okay, so we've got our heart and our 9-inch, and we're going to use our fork to just prick the bottom and the sides before we pop it into our preheated 400-degree oven. That's it. Okay. So while that's baking, like I said, we'll have to check. It'll be a little less than the 15 minutes, I'm sure. Let's talk about our filling. Now, I know this is called peaches and cream, but we're going to go a little bit out of order, and we're going to make our cream before we talk about our peaches. So this is very simple. I'm going to use a little hand beater because my beaters are dirty from that. And we're going to put in about a half a cup, maybe a little bit less, of whipping cream, and 3/4 of a cup of sugar, 1.5 tablespoons, which I've already measured with our little heart measuring spoons, 1.5 tablespoons of all-purpose flour, couple of course. We added a little bit into the crust, and now we've got our full cup there. And 1.5 eggs. So why 1.5? Well, the 9-inch recipe would be 1 egg, but again, you have to make it up another third, or reduce it a third for the 9-inch. So 1 egg, and then how do you get a half an egg? Well, you put an egg in here, you beat it up, and then you pour out about half. It doesn't have to be exact. That looks good. And my dogs will get the other half, and they'll love that. All right, so again, we're just going to mix all those ingredients together and call that the cream, peaches and cream tart with almond shortbread crust. Peaches are high in vitamin C. They have vitamin A, fiber, antioxidants. They're low calories, so they make a great snack. They're cholesterol free. And peach growing season is usually between June and August they're usually at their peak of flavor, so that's why August is National Peach Month. All right, there's our cream. Let's just scrape that bowl down a little bit, get all the flour and sugar incorporated. So that was easy. And now let's talk more about the star of our show, the peach. I'll leave that in. You could also do it with a whisk. All right, so for our peaches today, we're going to need about 3 cups, which might be 3 large peaches, peeled and sliced. So before you got here, I did these peaches, but I'll show you what I did. It's going to be juicy, so it might drip a little bit. I just took a knife and went around cutting the peach in half. Now there's 2 types of pits or stones. Peaches are called drupes or stone fruit. They're in the same family as the cherry, which you might remember from our February show. I said the word drupe. Cherries, apricots, and plums, and also nectarines. So the one type of stone or pit is called freestone. We hope we get that because they're a little bit easier. The other is cling. So that's nice. That's a freestone peach. And it's very easy to separate the flesh from the stone. Then we have to peel them. If they're nice and ripe, you might be able to just pull the skin off like this, and otherwise you have to use your knife, which isn't a big deal, but this is nice and neat. If there's any bruising, you can just trim that off. And we want a medium, thin to medium slice, so that looks a little, you know they say if you bruise like a peach, it's because peaches are delicate. And also if you say a person is a peach, that usually means they're sweet and highly desirable. So this is how I slice them. So you know I'm just a home cook and I don't have real knife skills, but this is what I did for the peaches that are in there. And again, there's our freestone pit, and then I just went another half, a quarter, peel off the skin. And do you know the difference between a nectarine and a peach? So this is a nectarine, besides size, because these were pretty large peaches. Just one gene, okay? The peach has the fuzzy skin because it has a dominant gene, and the nectarine has the smooth skin and a little bit firmer flesh because it has the recessive gene. So never in a million years, if you had told me when I was getting a degree in medical anthropology, which is population genetics, that one day I would be on TV talking about peach genes, but here we are. Isn't life interesting? So yes, the nectarine has one gene different. Do you know what a vampire's favorite fruit is? Nectarine, get it? So that is a little fruit humor for you. All right, so now we've peeled our peaches. Oh, and also if you do this ahead and you want to make sure, oops, your peaches they're slippery because they're so juicy. These are such good peaches. If your peaches aren't ripe when you get them or you want to speed up their ripening, they give off ethylene gas, so you can put them in a brown bag and seal that, and that'll help speed up the ripening process. Or if you don't want to have to slice peaches, you can use a 1 16-ounce bag of frozen peaches for this recipe, but it's very important that you thaw them, you drain them, and then you also blot them with paper towels so that they're not too wet or runny if you do use the frozen variety. But this time of year, please get fresh peaches. They're so great and they're perfectly ripe. All right, so we'll go into the PEG TV time machine and we'll imagine that our 12 minutes or so has gone by, and we're going to, oh, and also if your crust starts to get a little dark, you want the whole thing to be golden. You can make these little heat shields out of foil and protect your crust. But here's our perfectly golden done crust. So again, we used our imagination and we got the crust done in record time. All right, so now we are going to arrange our peach slices in concentric circles starting from the outside. And I'll tell you a little bit more fun facts about peaches. In 2018, in Peach County, Georgia, there was a peach tree that was not like regular peach trees. Peach trees usually have a whole lot of peaches on them. And this tree only had a few. So all of the tree's energy went to just a few peaches, and one peach grew to be 1.8 pounds. Now, an average peach is usually about 1/3 to 1/2 pound. So this was like 5 peaches in one. And you can see it's in the Guinness Book of World Records for world's heaviest peach. But as we mentioned, South Carolina likes to beat Georgia at its own peach game. So South Carolina has a town named Gaffney, which likes to call itself the peach capital of South Carolina. So to celebrate that, back in 1981, they painted the Gaffney water tower to look like a peach. So they say they have the world's largest peach. This thing is 135 feet up in the sky. They call it the peachoid. It can be seen from I-85 for miles around. It's become a little bit of a tourist attraction. And the only problem is some people, when they drive by, think it looks like a baby's bottom with diaper rash. So, sorry Gaffney, but that's what people think. So that is the other world's largest peach. All right, so I'm just going around, like I said, in kind of concentric circles. You want to overlap a little bit because you want people to get a lot of peach in each bite. And again, you can, the cream is going to cover it up a little bit, so they won't see your pretty design, but you can make it look nice. All right, so that's that. And now, get my hands away. And I cut extra because I cut that extra peach. I'm going to give our cream filling a little whirl. And I might not use all of this. The rest of it maybe I'll use in the heart. And now, when I took out our crust, magically took out our crust, our finished crust, I lowered the temperature to 350 degrees. So we bake the crust at 400, the almond shortbread crust, and we bake the peaches and the custard or cream filling at 350. I'm just going to pour this around, make sure it doesn't overflow the edges of our crust that are just a nice, perfectly golden brown. And you're going to bake this, I think the recipe says about 32 to 40 minutes. The custard will be set and maybe a little bubbly and a little golden. And again, you have to know your oven a little bit and check it and make sure it's not overdone or underdone. You want it just right. And again, that's why we put the love in, because usually that gives you a little safety extra blanket of delicious and secure. All right, that looks good. Again, you don't want to overflow your crust. Get a little bit more here. And then we're going to finish it with, and this is an option, so you can choose to omit this next step, but if you'd like, we've got about 3 tablespoons of sliced almonds, and we're going to sprinkle that on. The almond flavor goes nice with our shortbread crust, and that gives it a little crunch. The almonds will be slightly toasted from the oven. And again, you can just kind of space them out nicely. So give this a nice aesthetic appearance. And if you don't want the almonds, that's fine too. You could also try a glaze of peach preserves with a little bit of water. You can melt that down over your stove and brush it on top at the end when you're done baking. That looks good. All right. So we're going to pop this in our 350-degree oven. So we'll have to move our imaginary baked crusts and pop in our peaches and cream. All right. Put that on for real, bake, and 350. That's going to bake for about 35 minutes, like I said, until it's set. All right, so now, again, through the magic of TV and our PEG TV time machine, that was the fastest 35 minutes of your life, we're going to talk about our finished tart. So here is the final result, but you'd have to put that on your cooling rack. And also through the magic of TV, we have our little finished hard tart. So to get it out of the tart pan, we showed you earlier the removable bottom. You might need to just pry the edges a little bit. Oh, and also I wanted to mention that the peach fuzz is also a defense mechanism. So not only is it the dominant gene, but it protects peaches from insects, disease, weather. It even protects it from sun exposure. So peach fuzz is actually nature's fruit sunscreen. All right, so now go around the edge, like I said, to pry off the crust. It has to be perfectly cool before you do this. And then we're going to, we're going to just push up the bottom. There you can see the rest of the crust with that nice scalloped edge. And one of my friends, Joyce, has a bakery, and she taught me this trick. Because the bottom is slippery and my serving platter is a little concave, you can just put a little circles of duct tape on there and push it down so that when you go to take it to your guests at the table, it doesn't slide off and make a little disaster. And then same thing with the heart. You're going to pry it away from the edge, pop up the bottom, little crumbs because, again, shortbread can be crumbly, and place it this time on our heart serving platter. And there you have peaches and cream tart with almond shortbread crust. And for extra love, we've got our mini peaches and cream tart with almond shortbread crust with a little slivered almonds on top. And it's perfect for Peach Month, National Peach Month. But it's also, this is our 12th Baking with Love, so our 1-year anniversary of this show. So I'd like to thank all of the friends and fans who've been watching every episode. If you've missed any, you can catch them on PEG TV YouTube. All my taste testers and my crew and everyone that made this dream come true for me. I hope you like the recipe. You can find it on the PEG TV website, and I hope you'll give it a try. It's super easy, as you can see, and really everybody is going to love it. So, peach out. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you next time on Baking with Love.